Seven, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome everybody to CBD Talk Podcast, episode 53. And today we have a returning friend. We have, oh my goodness, James Priest, who is now the author of a brand new book, Did You Know This About Cannabis? Welcome back, James.
Thank you, Don. I appreciate you having me back. It's always a pleasure to speak with you and anybody about cannabis.
Definitely. So, hey, how about give me a recap of your thoughts on 2017 on the cannabis front?
It was a wild one, everything from the whole Jeff Sessions scare with people. Personally, as a business owner, we saw a lot of clients that we had that were starting cannabis businesses, and they saw the whole scare with Jeff Sessions, and they decided to back out of the business ventures they were into, and a lot of them shifted towards e-cigarettes, unfortunately, and vape cartridges and things that looked more lucrative at the time. Only a handful of them hung in. I saw a lot of advancements at the same time. More states are accepting and they're passing positive cannabis reform laws, not necessarily laws that are always beneficial for everybody, but laws that are they impact and affect the patients that really matter.
They move the ball forward.
Yeah, so many people have the misconception that cannabis is just about getting high or getting stoned, which, there's a certain side to that, and that's part of the recreational side, just like alcohol or anything is, but there's a huge, and I mean huge medical side. It's amazing to see what it does. As a writer, I travel from coast to coast. People open up their lives to me. I get to not just take a few seconds or correspondence by email, but I go out to their homes and their houses and I meet with them and I sit there with them. Some of them I spend days on end with, and I watch them suffer through these seizures, and I watch cannabis stop it. I watch them, how they live their lives, their routines, how they strive to be healthy. And, a lot of these people, they feel bad if they have to take pharmaceuticals, and that's not, it's just, people should have a choice. It's really what it boils down to. And education is fundamental when it comes to cannabis reform and making people, or not even making people, just giving people the knowledge so that they can learn that, hey, this is a medicine, and the perception of propaganda was negative and it was wrong. Demonizing cannabis isn't good. It's a bad thing. We need to look at it for the truth behind it. The past 80 years, 90 years of lies doesn't make up a lifetime of truths about cannabis. It's used around the world by cultures everywhere. It's one of those things I could talk about endless. That's why I just did the short book. We get a lot of people that ask us, how did prohibition start? Why is cannabis illegal? Is it money? Is there one person behind it? And there's a lot of factors that deem into it, and that's kind of why we decided. We put together a short book. I started writing one day for the fun of it, just started with what was going to be a blog, and before I knew it, I had close to 8,000 words in front of me. That's a little bit too long for a blog, so me and the wife were like, why don't we turn it into an ebook? And so we went through the process of learning how to publish and format it all into the ebook format, and it was actually really fun. We enjoyed doing it, and we hope the information in the book, I didn't know whether to cite it or not at first, because part of me was like, do you cite the information? Because then everybody's going to just say you were copying somebody else's work. But I want people to know that this information didn't come from me and made up in my mind. This is stuff that we're asked to research on a regular basis. People that open up new businesses that are coming into the cannabis sector that have never had involvement in cannabis, they don't know the difference between indicas and sativas and landrace strains, or where prohibition began. When was cannabis removed from the U.S. pharmacopoeia? What, you mean it was in the U.S. pharmacopoeia? Our pharmacopoeia actually used cannabis as a medicine? People are blown away when they find out that the U.S. Pharmacopoeia had cannabis listed for more than 100 different ailments that it would work and help to treat. That went away in 1942 officially. A lot of people say it was 1937, but it took a few years for that to go into effect. And those are some of the issues that we touch on in the book. We also cite the information so that when you're looking at it, you can go and click on the source of the information. And the sources aren't going to be some some, just random YouTuber or some random channel. They're like the Center for Disease Control
Yeah,
and the National
PubMed.
Hemp Association, and they're
Mhm.
credible sources. So these people have got a lot to teach us, and when we learn about it, it's fun to teach other people about it. Um, you know, living in the South is rough when it comes to talking about cannabis.
Yeah.
Even being on a show like this, it takes a lot to get out there and show your face, because you really are demonized. People look at you and they think, oh, cannabis, oh, stoner, pothead. And, I talk about cannabis to everybody I come in contact with in some form or another, and don't really push it. It's not necessarily something to push on everybody, but the information is different. You see a difference out in Colorado, Washington, Oregon, California. People know about cannabis. It's great. You come over here into Tennessee, North Carolina, Virginia, Alabama, Georgia. People, it's the devil's lettuce still.
Yeah.
Propaganda is alive. You can actually see how
until they have a friend or family member that has benefited directly from it, and then their mind changes 9 times out of 10.
Unfortunately, that's what it usually takes. And even me as an advocate and a writer, people ask me, like, why don't you speak? Sometimes I don't go up to these political meetings because I get too passionate. It would be hard for me to really reserve the tears and the cuss words.
I understand.
How can you not read? How can you not see the evidence? I mean, it makes me think that a requirement of reading isn't part of the requirement for political office. I think at least your aide should be able to read. They should be able to look at research and relate that research to you in picture form if you can't read, which apparently a lot of our politicians have trouble reading.
But we're in a society right now that seems to only want to be exposed to information that confirms what they believe.
Well, exactly. That, I'm glad you said it exactly like that. That is precisely why the information that is in this book is cited. And it's not a book that I'm hoping sells millions of copies. I wouldn't care if it sold 10 copies. I just want the information in there to reach the right people, and that's all it takes. I'm a big believer of a single seed can tip the scales. And it only takes one person. Each one of us that advocates for cannabis, that has a family member affected by it, that advocates for somebody we know or love, and we're all seeds. That's us. I mean, so it's changing, and that's good to see. The progress is slow, and it baffles me that it has to be financially based. I wish the cannabis sector would just be permitted to do its business, because then you could come into all these politicians that are bought out by alcohol and pharma and tobacco and the fashion industry, which nobody includes the fashion industry with the big five. I like to call it a select seven.
Well, what about the biofuels and the plastics?
Yes, I mean, it goes on and on. I kind of tend all those guys right in with cotton. Goes right in with DuPont. That's when synthetic came in. The synthetic fiber industry kind of pushed a lot of cannabis prohibition, even more so than pharma did at the time. Pharma really wasn't developed in the time when cannabis prohibition was born. It was racism and control of money, and a lot of it had to do with the shifting tides of cotton being the fabric of our lives, and hemp was, I could go on and on. It's the most versatile plant on the planet, in my opinion.
Exactly.
So,
and I'm loving
I hope everybody that's listening to this makes the NOCO Hemp Expo coming up in Colorado in Loveland this year. It's going to be amazing. I'm doing everything I can to get there. I know Dawn's going to be there. Be sure to say hello to her. Shameless plug. I'm sorry I had to.
I'll be walking around live streaming. It's going to be fun. But you're so right. It is such a versatile plant, and we are so far behind when it comes to what can be done with that plant. If you're looking at other countries, when
I talk about our political leaders not being able to read, I know some people might think he good mocking of them, but I'm just watching the hearing here in Tennessee. You have people quoting outdated studies from the Journal of American Medicine, And these studies are 2012 and 2014. And the people debating these studies are having to point out that these authors have done work since then that's different than what their original statement was, because this was based upon outdated information in a time when prohibition was still on the teeter-tot of thriving. 2012 and 14, California was really the only place that had medical cannabis. And they've done a lot that people don't realize out there. I hear all the time that the alcohol industry fights cannabis. I don't really think the alcohol industry fights cannabis myself. I see a lot of events where alcohol and cannabis go hand in hand. Some events don't encourage alcohol, but look at California. They've had legal medical cannabis for 22 years. The alcohol industry did not die. People didn't quit drinking. It just gave people a different alternative.
And when you look at the pharmaceuticals, and I know that you and I both know plenty of people who have been able to literally change their lives around by the use of cannabis, whether it's CBD
dozens
or
and dozens, hundreds.
Yeah, hundreds.
Hope Rose Foundation. I could go on and on.
And then you add on top of that the fact that part of the reason that they did so well was that they weren't having to try to find a way to counter the side effects for the medicine that was given to them. I mean, the side effects are as bad as
a prime example. I work with a lady that a lot of people are familiar with. A lot of people don't know. Some people get her confused with other people. We're working on changing that because we're stepping out in the mainstream. She's ready. Her name is Lisa High. Some know her as the Green Life Granny. This is somebody who captivated me. I started as somebody who just was going to tell her story originally. Got a hold of her story, and I was just moved by her. I was also kind of taken back that she was taken by so many what I refer to as snakes in the grass that are out there in the cannabis industry that are looking to burn people. But she wanted to have a website and a platform where she can help teach people. This lady she had a placenta accreta or percreta originally. It's a lot like it tears up the inside of your intestines. Fingers grow through your intestines and internal organs. It leaves you with some of the similar effects of Crohn's disease. She's had a lot of different issues she's the ideal of what you would think of when you think of a medical cannabis patient. Just a few years ago, though, she was in a wheelchair, wearing a helmet, drooling on herself, just overweight, on the verge of death, on 6 fentanyl suckers a day.
Yeah.
It's 6, maybe even 12. I might be off there, but point being, fentanyl suckers a day, and 110 oxycodone every 11 days or every 10 days. Just an ungodful amount of medication. I worked in Florida as an adult care living facility administrator, where I got to administrate handing out the medications. I worked with dietary. I worked with case management. I had patients that took 28 and 30 pills a day. That was amazing to me to see this. Now, these people, I didn't see the patients in Florida ever see relief. Lisa, Granny, as I like to call her, I see a whole different Granny.
She's amazing.
Wait till we get out this 420. We're going to be out in the crowd to let people see what cannabis can do for a medical patient. There's some awesome people. Jeff Waters is out there. He's another medical patient that I just, their stories are amazing. Alexis Bortel's story. So many people don't really know her story over here. In Colorado, that's a name a lot of people know.
Oh, yeah.
You get out east here and people are lost. They're like Alexis Bortel. Who are you talking about? Have you ever heard of the little girl who's suing Jeff Sessions? Suddenly, whoa, wait a minute. Is that her? And people want to learn about it. So, what you and I do is imperative to help spread the word about cannabis, and that it's an actual medicine, that it really does help so many people. And beyond being the medicine, man, let's talk hemp for a second. Let's say phytoremediation. Farmers, you need to be growing hemp. It needs to be your rotation crop. You'll get better yields and can brag that you had a better crop than the next guy. I'm just saying, I've seen it work.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's, everyone's like, oh, Mitch McConnell, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, look, I lived in Kentucky. I know that the reason he's doing this is for the financial gain for the farmers in Kentucky, and I'm fine with that. I don't care why he's doing it. The fact that he's doing it, that's all that I care about.
Well, Kentucky used to grow the largest portion of the United States hemp prior to the prohibition. When it came to supplying the U.S. Navy with hemp cord for all the ropes and everything that sails and everything that was on our boats, everything. I believe it was until 1942 that Kentucky produced, I want to say it was 50% of the nation's hemp back then, which, by the way, you could pay your taxes with if you didn't know. We need to get back to we can pay our taxes with hemp because damn it, I'd be growing some hemp.
Oh, hell yeah.
That's why we're having a spring broke sale here at Cannabis.
But yeah, so it's like, I don't care what his reasoning is. Don't care. He's doing it. That's all I need.
They're having a hemp show here in Nashville, I believe, or Knoxville. It's the NOCO is hosting here in I think it's October, I believe it is.
Oh, I might have to fly out for that.
Well, that's huge to me. I happen to know somebody who has roughly 300 acres in Kansas. It's where they hold the 4-state farm show. And this individual is very interested in holding a hemp farm show in Kansas.
Nice.
So if there's anybody out there that wants to make the first hemp show in Kansas like really happen, I have the spot. It's the site of the 4-state farm show. I just got to get the right people involved in it because Kansas is so touchy.
Ooh, yikes.
Yeah, but at the same time, if we can show them what hemp could do
for that state,
man, it would be amazing. The state is trying to fund itself right now with casinos, and my God, we all know that a casino can be fun. I'm not knocking a casino, don't get me wrong, but alcohol and gambling is not the answer to a state's revenue issue. Cannabis has proven that it can produce the revenue. Hemp alone, if you don't support cannabis as a medicine yet, even look at hemp, and you can't deny saving the planet. That's something that we live on now. We have to work together. So generally, after a little bit of understanding hemp, people open up to cannabis that may not have been open to it before. I know people here in the South that I've spoken to, and a lot of them, they don't want to mention their names. They don't want me to write about them. They don't want me to talk about them because they're scared of prohibition. They're scared of persecution. They don't want to be arrested. They don't want to be fired from their job. I know people that work with certain unions that it used to be if you were caught here smoking a joint, you were fired. That was it. It was like you might as well have done cocaine or heroin or shot up on the job or whatever people want to dub it as. You were fired.
And and talked about this before. Doesn't even have to be it doesn't even have to have THC in it.
Right.
My mother was just taking some CBD. She's only been taking CBD for a while because she had tested positive on a drug panel with her pain clinic. And even only on CBD.
It's amazing that they tested for CBD because
here's the thing: they just do their test, and because she's only been taking CBD for months now. When I was out there, I had brought her some edibles to help her sleep because she has Alzheimer's also, and on top of the pain and everything, and it flips her sleep schedule. So she's been only on the CBD, but it tested presumptive positive because it's just a metabolite. It's just testing for any cannabinoid metabolite. So they weren't testing for CBD. It just on this panel, it's a cannabinoid panel for the metabolite.
It's really that's where I get even as a writer. And I'll be honest with you here. This is where this is a touchy subject that I have to learn about, and that I'm constantly trying to educate myself about. If a CBD shows up on a metabolite panel on a drug screen, it has to have a certain percentage of THC in it, to my knowledge, to do that. Otherwise, they don't really directly have a test that's on that level specifically for CBD that's part of a typical drug panel, unless somebody's under some sort of weird direct look. Like if somebody here's on probation, and I get asked this all the time, I'm on probation, is CBD going to make me test negative or positive for cannabis? By all means, you should never test positive for cannabis from CBD that comes from hemp, because it should have a point
What's a
zero
zero?
zero
Yeah, it's
three.
0.3%. Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's what she's taking. And
Now,
so,
see, that steps into, there lies the problem that I know a lot of producers that are producing hemp that say, where is your hemp source being tested from? There's not a regulation with testing.
right.
There's
And
some
although I do know,
FDA and
yeah, I do know the testing on this one because I know the source. But
and
here's,
that just, see, even
well,
that,
from
that's a
when I
story I
talked
would
to
love to dive
Colorado,
deeper into.
right, and I'm trying to get someone on the show to explain this. But I talked to Colorado's cannabis clinicians, and they explained that the test is not for THC. The test is not for THC. The test is for cannabinoids.
It's a cannabinoid metabolite test to see
Yeah,
if there's any form of cannabinoid in it.
right. So it's not specifically testing for THC. And
Well,
so it's picking up CBG, CBN, CBA, CBC, CBD, anything.
and then once again, CBD, even going back to the root of the issue, being
Mm-hmm.
threatened with persecution of losing your job,
Yeah.
and
Or
being
in her
demonized,
case, being fired by her pain doctor.
and CBD is not illegal. It's not something that is against the law. It's not
Federally.
FDA regulated,
Mm-hmm.
which means it doesn't have a federal guideline to it. But, you know, it's a point to me where I really, really, if I could say one thing to American politicians,
Mm-hmm.
it's, you really think the American people are this naive anymore?
Yeah.
We see what's going on. It's all about money. We know that you're owned by companies, but understand this. Whoever owns you in alcohol, whoever owns you in tobacco, pharma, wherever it is that they own you, I promise you, supporting the people and embracing cannabis as a medicine and hemp to save our planet will pay off better in the long run than any amount of money these people are giving you.
Yeah. Well,
without a doubt in my mind.
We need to just completely legalize it, 100% full plant and everything, and then let the people decide whether they want to choose a product with or without THC.
No, it should be. And people ask me all the time, hey, is it like a big election that we can have in the country that can change this? And I'll tell them, even if we could have an election in our country that changed it, let's just say that 80% of America wanted it. There's an electoral college that decides what we do and don't want. So our vote only counts for so much. It confuses me. Politics is one of the things when I talk about it, people get mad at me a lot of the times, but I don't honestly see it making sense because we get a vote, but the electoral college made up of this group of people decides they have the favor of it. I'm not a genius in this, but from what I understand, in order to abolish the electoral college, 28 states would have to give control of the vote to the people and not to the electoral college. I tell people all the time, if we want to really make a change, we should really strive for that. But right now, they've got us focusing on cannabis legalization and trying to freaking conserve resources and trying to switch from old fossil fuels into new energy. And I mean, there's so much that we're directing our attention on and that we could be focusing on so much more. It just don't make no sense to me. But I guess the political tiptoeing is, trying to get people
that's frustrating.
on it.
Yeah, and that's why, it's nice to be able to know which candidates in your state are pro-cannabis.
And I always like to say that, when I first started writing, I would lash out at them sometimes. Vote this person out of office. They don't support cannabis. Here's the link to them. He's like, chew them a new ass, or excuse me.
That's all right. It's all good. We're all friends here. It's okay.
Honestly, what I'd like for people to do is understand that the first approach should be that these people are truly misinformed.
Yeah.
The reason it takes a lot when you've been told something, to be told that what you were taught is a lie, and then to admit, okay, I've embraced the lie, I'm wrong. Dr. Sanjay Gupta did that on national TV to people, and that should be a shining star example for politicians. That should be a lighthouse. He should be the beacon of light for them to do the same thing. Prohibition was wrong.
Yeah.
Propaganda about cannabis was for the majority a lie. Anything that's abused is abused. That's just the way it is. Cannabis is something that when it's added in to each person is different. When it's added into your daily life, when you get cannabinoids, your body has a natural endocannabinoid system that does not produce phytocannabinoids. They're essential. I wouldn't have known what a phytocannabinoid or an endocannabinoid or what, yeah, like CBD for cannabidiol, or
Uh-huh.
you go into CBN or CBG with these different cannabinoids. I've read there's like 80 of them roughly in cannabis. We're researching half a dozen, maybe a dozen
Plus
of
the
them.
terpenes and all
Terpene
the other.
interaction's amazing.
Mhm.
I have a friend of mine, Kathleen Graham. She's a director of hospice in West Michigan, or in Michigan, East Michigan, West Michigan. I'm not exact. She's an amazing lady. She's a cannabis supporter and advocate. Her and Jamie Cooper do some amazing work in Michigan. She's one of these people that I learned something about cannabis that personally I would have thought maybe might have been made up. She has an interaction with, if she smokes the strain Jack Air, it has a terpene in it that causes her heart to AFib. She didn't know what caused this throughout her life, but learned because she journaled about cannabis and just so happened to be having an issue with this terpene right out, or this issue right after smoking, had it journaled, and it's been on occasions where she's been journaling, and through that it led her to realize there was a terpene interaction. I want to say it's terpenoline, maybe something along that lines. But she's one of these people that I learned stuff like that, and that amazes me. So there's a lot. I listen to people that write a lot of science. I don't know the science of cannabis. I research it like anybody else. Taking in certain amounts of terpenes causes your body to either take in less or more of the cannabinoids to your receptors. As we learn the science on this, it breaks down. It's amazing. I had the pleasure of speaking with Aaron Yona in Israel. He is just one of those individuals that is passionate about the medical side of cannabis. I didn't know anything about GXP or GMP procedures, which is good manufacturing practices involved in the pharmaceutical side of the pharmaceuticals and things like that. But they want to bring that same side to when we're handling cannabis extracts, that that GMP protocols follow. That, and I see that as being, yes, that is important. No, it doesn't knock the mom and pop out, because surprisingly, a lot of your mom and pops run some of the most cleanest, pristine operations I've ever had the pleasure of touring and seeing. I've seen some of the bigger ones that, my grandma taught me, if you don't have nothing nice to say, don't say nothing at all, and I'll leave it at that for them.
I'm with you on that. But yeah, and that's the thing, is that, we haven't even gotten even close to the line of the starting line with cannabis. Yeah, we're still warming up. The industry, once the shackles are removed, is going to just be just something that can support millions and millions of jobs, because
Right
there's
now
so much
in
you can do with it.
America, there is an estimated, I believe it was 130 to 260,000 full and part-time cannabis employees, which means there are more cannabis employees than there are bakers in the United States currently.
And we haven't even gotten into, a full farming session.
Oh no!
We haven't gotten into the, the hempcrete, the biofuels, the
Wow,
plastics, the anything.
I love hempcrete. That's one I'd love to just take a second with you, because you're one of the few people that, when I say hempcrete, people look at me like, oh, are you making this up? And I have to show videos of it. Like, no, I'm not. I was just speaking with someone here in the state of Tennessee, and they have the strangest job. They're mortician. They do the makeup on bodies after they pass away. And one of the things this is a young man. He was saving up his money, and he's building vaults, which what you're buried in, concrete vaults. And apparently, you have to build these concrete vaults and build them. You build them, set them up above ground. They have to sit for a certain amount of time, and then they have to be inspected by a state inspector to be certified. And state inspector will certify so many vaults and moves on. Well, I told him, I said, why don't you make your vaults out of hempcrete? You leave less of an environmental impact, and for people that are looking for that quality of life, beyond when they leave, they can have a hemp vault instead of a concrete vault, which hemp obviously has a way less of an environmental impact and virtually zero footprint compared to what concrete would have. And he was blown away by that. And, that was where it dawned on me, having that conversation was like, wow, look how versatile this product really is. I mean, you hear about the plastics and countertops and cars and planes and boats. And I mean, virtually ask yourself, can we get this in hemp? It really is something that you should ask, because the answer typically is yes.
But yeah, and I'm loving the paper products, because I really don't like cutting down all those trees.
I was really stoked. I saw that the NOCO Hemp Expo this year had, there's some brochures. I believe I'm not 100% on this. It's either more. I'm pretty sure Morris Beagle had something to do with this, but they're printed on hemp paper using hemp ink for the first time.
Nice.
And they were so vivid and so colorful. When you go there, you're going to see things like they're helping to show things like some hemp speakers, and hemp couches are going to be up on the hemp seats are going to be up there where the speakers are and the guest panels and things like that. So you're going to really see some really cool stuff there. I encourage anybody that gets a chance to go. And if you don't get a chance to go, check out people like the Green Life Granny and Dawn Peacock Owens, because we're going to be out there and we're going to be broadcasting this. We're going to be sharing it with people. And it's a family-friendly event. You can bring the kids. Kids need to learn about this.
And they have CBD ice cream, and
yes,
so good.
And no worries about kids failing drug tests or getting high on CBD ice cream. It doesn't happen, people. It just doesn't happen. You come out and learn about hemp. It's amazing. I was out 2 years ago, and the hands-on experiences were absolutely amazing. They had somebody out there where you were getting to witness, like they had the hempcrete out there where they had it torched and were burning one side of it and showing that the other side didn't catch on fire. They had a hands-on demonstration where you got to mix some hempcrete by hand. And it was actually showing you how it was made, and they had, really, really cool stuff. There was a lot of vendors. The hemp ice cream was out there, which was the CBD ice cream, phenomenal stuff. You get to see a lot of artwork and just amazing things out there. It's great to see that. And one of the things that gets me the most is I living here in the South. I know a lot of farmers. I've seen a lot of them.
Yeah.
And man, I tell you, hemp can help your crops. Wherever you grow it, no fertilizers, no pesticides, drop it in the ground. Just try growing it early winter, way before you're supposed to. They've got cultivars of hemp that literally can grow just above freezing. And like here in Tennessee, you don't freeze for long enough hours. You can drop it in early, plant that crop, pull it up, harvest the hemp, sell it, being one of the biggest cash crops in the U.S., even still to this day. Sell it, work with the companies, and get the government grants to do it. It's out there, man. Then the crop that you plant is in better shape for it, whether it's corn, soy, whatever it is.
Yeah, it's great.
It only makes sense. When I've talked to some people that, you come across people that want to help the world, they want to save the planet, they want to make money, and some people don't care, they just want to brag. I've seen a little bit of it all. I know some farmers that could care less whether they're helping the planet, they could care less about making money because they're doing okay, unlike some of their neighbors are. They just want to brag. They want to go to the farm show and be like, my crop produced bigger and better yield than anybody's crop. I'm not telling you my secret. I told him, plant hemp and watch. You can go and brag. It got his attention. This guy, I'm not going to name him, but he had no concern or care about money, saving the planet. None of that. None of that floated his boat. But the thought that he could brag about having a healthier and more potent crop, and that he didn't have to spend, that he could make money off of it, he didn't have to do the fertilizer. He thought I was lying. I literally had to correct him. I was like, National Hemp Association, me and you, here we go. Let's go and look.
Wow, that is awesome. One person at a time. Turning them one person at a time, James. All right, let's talk about the book. I mean, I know we touched on it a little bit, but so you're basically just doing a blog, is what your original intention was.
Blog. We get asked all the time, where did Prohibition come from? When did it start? Why does it continue? We write a lot of content. When we put out blogs, companies come to us and they just want to help get their business out there and known. Blogging is a very powerful way to draw attraction to your website, no matter what it is, whether it's a business, a cause, a non-for-profit, whatever the reason. When you blog, people read those blogs and it directs that traffic there. Chances are they're going to read more about you and what you're doing. So people ask us these same questions. We like to refer to this kind of as evergreen content. So rather than, making people, if you go out and try to research it, it's so hard to get real information that's factually accurate. So, and I mean, I went through this and I do this day in, day out. I've been writing now for about 4 or 5 years on cannabis in particular. That's why I know where all these sources are. And this is stuff, it took me a few days to put all this together, but it's all together in one spot where it's 51 or 52 different links for people to follow so that you can read what I wrote about it, my insight or my thought on it, and you'll see that it's based on truth. It's factual information about cannabis. It's where did prohibition start? Who was the person behind it? When it kicked off in 1937, why did it start? Who initiated that? Cannabis prohibition today. People hear the big five all the time. This doesn't really refer to the big five. I kind of like to call it the select seven because you really have industries that are trying to block cannabis for profit. Pharmaceuticals, obviously one of them. Alcohol's another one. Police unions, private prison unions, which is a huge business. Private prisons have gone to be one of the biggest disgusting businesses, in my opinion, in America. I'll be honest, one of the things that I didn't know whether I wanted to put in the book or not was I touched on a word and a phrase that I hold very, very controversial to myself, but I thought it was very important to put in there so people understand, and that was rebranded slavery. At the end of the Civil War, plantation owners, people of that nature found out that slavery was gone. They no longer had a free workforce. They saw that they needed a free workforce. They couldn't control a big workforce. They couldn't pay it. It was without hurting them. And of course, that's not going to happen. So it actually went into, there's a part that I linked and I touched on this information. It was convict leases, I believe is the term, that started the late 1800s in Georgia, where giant plantation farm owners saw convicts as, hey, we don't have slaves. We can't beat people. We can't yell at them. We can't force them to do anything anymore. But these convicts, we can yell at them. People don't care about a convict. We can beat them. We can make them do whatever we want. And it's evolved into, you'd be amazed if you found out how much of the products in America today are made by convicts inside of private prison institutions that are funded by a lot of people's 401ks.
Yeah. And a lot of these people, it's ridiculous that you can, the number of years you can get for an ounce of cannabis.
Hell, not even an ounce. You can, here in Tennessee, I've had friends that got busted with what they call paraphernalia anywhere else. Like they got busted with a seed, a roach clip, and a pack of papers, and it's a year's probation and like $1,500 fines. I got arrested in Wisconsin. I was in a car heading to South Carolina on vacation. I'll be the first one to openly tell my story. I had 3 ounces of pot with me. I was going for 10 days vacation. That's about, I smoke it comfortably. If I'm in the right area, I'll smoke about 2 ounces a week. I love my flower. It's just always been a part of my life. I've smoked 35 something years. It's just part of something I like to do. I was going on vacation. I wanted to have a little bit of just fun time. Was heading to Bike Week in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina to take in some sun. Wisconsin is full of frozen Arctic weather, like -30. I'm heading to, or May, excuse me, it was. And I'm heading off to South Carolina, go to Myrtle Beach. It was like 90 degrees. I am so ready for this. So I packed my weed. I'm good to go. We're riding down the road. Didn't have a front license plate on my friend's Mercedes. They pull us over right by the Chicago-Wisconsin state line. Instantly, you see they pull up 3 cars behind us. You know what was coming on. They had a K9 unit right out there. They came up. They said they smelt weed. We didn't have any pot being smoked. I did have pot in the car, so maybe they did or didn't. I told them there was nothing. They said they were getting a K9 unit. They came back. when it came back, I told them, hey, here's the pot. It's all mine. They were like, no, this pot belongs to everybody. It's like, no, this pot's all mine. They were kind of mad at me. Ended up arresting me for it. Nobody else got charged, but I ended up with a felony charge over that. For 3 ounces, they hit me with drug trafficking. Felony drug trafficking charge. That, to me, is an utter sign of ridiculousness.
Drug trafficking 3 ounces.
3 ounces. It would have cost me more in gas money than it did for weed to drive to South Carolina, stay there, and come back. I'm drug trafficking 3 ounces. I even told them in court, they were like, you couldn't smoke this amount of weed in 10. I was like, I could smoke this amount of weed in a court session. If you guys give me papers and leave me alone, come back 8 hours. I'll have all 3 ounces gone, promise. They didn't appreciate my sense of humor. Gave me my mugshot for cannabis. I took my charge. But it's where I stand up and I let people know it's really horseshit. It was a public defender. I did not have the money at the time. I worked as a construction worker and a cook. I had to work 2 jobs because I've had to work 2 jobs my whole life. It's just how it's been a part of my life. That didn't do anything at the time but help seal the deal. And you don't really get good jobs. Drug trafficking, they look at you as you're a drug trafficker. They see drug trafficking.
They're thinking, that's heroin, whatever.
I rose above that, though. I never would have thought I would be doing what I'm doing today. I've loved cannabis. I've grown up with it. It's been a part of my life my entire life. I don't look at it as an industry. It's a culture for me. There's people out here that make up a lifestyle and a culture of beautiful individuals that are very caring and have a lot to offer and give the world. And it's a damn shame that we want to go and arrest these people and bar them away from society and then persecute them. And I see so much cannabis legalization. I encourage people, for all the legalization you see, for everybody you see smoking that joint on YouTube, for everybody you see that has a magazine out there. I write for the Emerald magazine. I know a lot of other writers that write for Dope magazine, High Times. For all of these people and for everything, remember some of the people that really helped to keep all of us in cannabis are still sitting in jail. They're rotting because of bad laws. If we all, the more courtroom support somebody gets, we can change things. That single seed can tip a scale, but when you get 100,000 or 200,000 of us seeds contacting a single politician or single warden telling them that this individual needs a pardon and that they must be, if you're going to stand against this individual, then we are going to find a way to vote you and people who support you and like you out of office. They will get their cages rattled and they will bring about that change. We're not asking for injustice or for them to commit a crime. We're asking for them to look at things. And was it wrong for some of these people to sell drugs that possibly, if you want to look at it like that, hit them for tax evasion? Nobody should be in jail for a plant. Pot should be like potatoes or tomatoes. Tax it, whatever you want to do to it, but people deserve access to it. It shouldn't be controlled by pharma. It shouldn't be controlled by alcohol. It shouldn't be controlled by tobacco. It should be regulated by people. We should be able to grow it the way our country encouraged us to grow hemp, to help end World War II, to help win the war. We should be able to grow it the way that our nation was founded when our founding fathers encouraged us to grow hemp for our nation, to grow it. That changed because of profits, and it really is that. I don't want to say anybody's wrong. People are misinformed.
Okay, you don't have to say people are wrong. I'll say it, because you know what? They're fucking wrong.
Thank you.
So that's what it is. So you can play nice all you want.
I'm trying to.
But no. No, they're wrong. Look at the science. Look at the people. Look at the children that are not seizing 30 times a day. Look at Lisa, Green Life Granny, who's not sucking on freaking fentanyl suckers all day long. And look at people whose tumors have disappeared. Oh yeah, Seth.
Hauser. They both of these are people that have to suffer with seizures here in Tennessee because they can't be allowed the same freedom as somebody in another state because the plant is demonized so bad in the Bible Belt.
Yeah. So you know what? You guys are wrong. Sorry.
You're wrong.
Sorry. It's just what it is. Your prejudice against a plant is costing people their lives.
And I so hope that what you and I do helps people to understand those ones that are wrong, or as I'll tiptoe around the tulips to say, misinformed.
Oh, I love them, but
I
I'm going to love
hope
them a
that
hell
you
of a
get a
lot more
chance.
when they change.
Exactly. Just get a chance to look at it. I get that it's scary to accept something new, and you don't have to do it all at once, but the truth is, like the X-Files says, the truth is out there. Right?
Yeah,
It really exists.
and it's not that hard to find it. It's not that hard to reach out to a person who is online, who has posted testimonials, who has talked about how it's helped them. It's not that hard for you to contact them
We're
and have
constantly
a
there. We don't
have a
answer questions for money.
conversation.
We answer them for free. People can reach out to us anytime. Social
Exactly.
media, email. You can find us. We're across Twitter, Facebook, Google Plus, LinkedIn. I don't do Massroots and Snapchat, things like that so much because I find it hard. We manage our own
Mm-hmm.
social media network, so
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot to stay up on, but we're always there to help people.
Yeah.
Our passion really strives. We lost our son to Menkes disease. He was 11 months old. So we knew a lot about cannabis, but didn't know the science about this. When he passed away, he suffered 30 to maybe 50 microseizures a day for the last 5 months of his life. He only lived to 11 months old. He was diagnosed with Menkes at about 6 months old. So basically that last 5 months was living in All Children's Hospital. And we met a lot of patients, a lot of people. And like you say, I'll be dead honest, it just quite frankly pisses me off that patients don't have people that listen.
Yeah. The science is there. Why why is it so scary? It's because of all the misinformation that's been shoved down their throats for decades. And I think that people need to seriously think about, why does this plant scare me? And then talk to some people whose lives have been changed by it, or whose lives could have been changed by it.
And if you don't
And
know, just
yeah,
use Google.
that's the thing. There are thousands of testimonials out there, and if somebody put a testimonial out there, it's because they want you to know. Find one that speaks to you, and just put in a comment. Hey, could I learn more about this? Do you
Yeah,
have
we love
time
the
to chat?
comments. I got a
Yeah,
patient wall.
yeah.
Oh, sorry, this is something that just hits me so
No,
emotionally.
I know, James, and I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that to you.
It's
I
all right.
did.
It's part of what, when Travis Nelson invited me to join the helping end the opioid epidemic in Colorado. Yeah, that's something that's part of the steering committee I'm privileged to be associated with.
And we're
I've
grateful to
watched
have you.
I watch so many people hurt by this, and I see so many people, and I still have friends that are hooked on what I call legal drugs or legal dope. They've been prescribed Xanax since they were 12 years old, and they're in their mid 20s, late 20s, and early 30s now. And these people, there's a difference for them. They don't understand when if you run out of your medicine a couple of days because you've been doubling up on your script and suddenly you're feeling all suicidal and crazy, and I'm here to talk to you and I'm trying to explain to you GABA production in your brain doesn't exist right now, and it controls your emotion and your depression, but it's because of pills, it's because of pharmaceuticals. Yet the people that are supposed to represent the will of the majority of the vote of the people
Mm-hmm.
support nothing more than the poison, the continued poisoning of us. It pains me.
Yeah.
My heart goes out to Seth. My heart goes out to Andrea. My heart goes out to Melody. My heart goes out to Alexis. My heart goes out to Brandon Lydell. My heart goes out to Colton Turner. These are just a handful of the people that are out there. There's so many unnamed people. Anybody out there that ever wants their story told, we're here for. That's what we want to do.
Yeah. And with every story that's told, there's going to be 10, 20, 30 people that change their mind. And we just do it again and again and again until we
that
get
ripple
that last
effect will
seed.
happen. And it's not misinformation. It's not false information. It's not made up. It's factual.
And here's the thing: these people, they don't have an agenda other than being healthy.
Right. Some of them just want a chance to have a life where they can get out and do something.
Yeah.
Seth, I mean, Granny, Seth, I work with these patients, and you see them. Seth goes to the White House. He goes and he holds his rallies, and Granny, she gets out, and people are like, "Hey, look at you." They don't realize what a chore it is for these people to actually get out, or how scary it is for them to think at any moment they could drop and have a seizure in front of everybody, or how worked up it just gets these people. And it doesn't have to be this way. It's been a sad thing of profiting off of people. And if people learn about where it comes from, the root of how it stems, it's like the book that I have is about a 30-minute book. And if you read it straight through, the information, you can go back and check every bit of it. The sources, they let you know that you can't ignore it. You've just been lied to if you don't agree with it. And that's okay to understand that you've been lied to, but you do need to change that viewpoint and support people. The patients, they need everybody.
They do.
And the patients aren't just necessarily somebody who's having seizures. They're not seizures. They're not just our Seths and Andreas. They're everybody. There are grandmothers. There are grandfathers and brothers and sisters, moms and dads. They're everywhere. Stop demonizing it. People aren't bad. It just needs the perception, and the stereotype will change the more that we get out there and that we speak. And it's even hard for me, as you see. I normally don't get emotional where I tear up and things like that, but it's just truth. I want people to know that these are tears for the patients. They're for our veterans. They're for our seniors. They're for people like me and you that are locked up and persecuted. It needs to stop.
It does. It does. And you know what? I just I don't think there's anything else to say, Jay.
That's about it. I like to resort to my cat costume. This cool cat is legalized cannabis. Props are good for everything. Smile is priceless. Remember that, people, and share smiles.
Definitely. All right, everybody. We'll see you on the next episode. Stay happy and stay healthy.
Peace.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.